Retro Replay 4.
Hey Leon, Dark here. I was just wondering if you'd gotten the lines for my new Retro Replay episode.
I don't ever remember being a part of your crappy script.
Whoa, okay, that was, uncalled for. Maybe we started this off on the wrong foot. Maybe I was a bit too pushy. How's your day going, Mr. Kennedy?
All spoiled thanks to your interruption. Why don't you do us all a favor and leave before the audience gets pissed off?
Okay, I guess let's just start the episode then. Prick?
Resident Evil 4 is a Japanese survival horror game published and developed by Capcom. Its original release for the GameCube was in 2005, and since then it has been re-released on a huge array of platforms. Capcom probably realized they could never make another game quite like this and decided to just re-release Resident Evil 4 into infinity. Good plan, guys. I will be discussing the PlayStation 2 version, as that's the one I had as a kid, but for your viewing pleasure I decided to record the footage on PC, so there aren't any significant changes other than enhanced graphics and Xbox button prompts. So what do you say? Want to come with me on this journey?
No! Get away!
Well, that was rude. Then again, that's how most girls react to me. In 1998, there was a zombie virus outbreak in Raccoon City. On the scene was a rookie police officer named Leon Scott Kennedy, who somehow managed to survive the ordeal. All of that takes place in Resident Evil 2, so they only gave Leon one game to catch a breather before they threw him into hell once again.
Not bad.
This time around, the year is 2004, and Leon has been tasked with rescuing the president's daughter, a charming girl named Ashley Graham.
I see that the president's equipped his daughter with ballistics too.
How rude! And I don't believe there's any relevance with my figure and my standing.
Ashley has been kidnapped by a cult called Los Illuminados, and rumor has it she's being kept in a village in Europe, where everybody is a dirty peasant, I guess. Why they didn't dispatch a full team to investigate instead of just sending one man with a handgun and a first aid spray, I'll never understand.
¿Qué carajo estás haciendo aquí? Lárgate, cabrón!
The villagers turn out to be less than friendly, everybody's cursing at him in Spanish, and within 20 seconds of gameplay time, you're already being assaulted with an axe.
Freeze!
Now that is how you start a game off right.
I said freeze!
The camera and controls introduced in this game would later become the staple for the Resident Evil franchise, but it was actually a big leap from its predecessors. The previous games all featured fixed camera angles, yet Resident Evil 4 shook it all up with the third-person camera hovering behind Leon's back. Whenever you aim with a weapon, it zooms into an over-the-shoulder view, and Leon will be unable to move while shooting and aiming. This is a mechanic that some people found to be dumb and limiting, but I've personally grown to like it. They'd later make you able to move and shoot in Resident Evil 6, but in this game it's all about tactical placement. You can't run and gun down every enemy you come across, you need to position yourself at a distance, and fights with bigger crowds of enemies become much more tense as a result, as they can push you into a corner if you're not careful. Part of what makes the combat so satisfying to me is the importance of shooting limbs. You have a laser sight on most weapons, and this makes it easier to deliver your precious handgun rounds into the correct part of the enemy's body. If you shoot a person in the leg, they may stumble. If you shoot them in the arm, you can disarm them. And if you shoot them in the face, you'll send them reeling backwards. When dealing with bigger crowds, it is essential to learn these weak spots, as you can often kick enemies that are staggered, pushing the crowd back and stunning them for a brief moment, letting you make your escape. Another change that came with Resident Evil 4 was the exclusion of zombies. These are not Walking Dead. These enemies are called Los Ganados, meaning the cattle in Spanish. They are normal villagers infected with the virus referred to as Las Plagas, and this virus makes them merciless killers with the odd mutation here and there. But other than that, they are intelligent human beings, meaning they can run at you in group, flank you, dodge shots, and use all sorts of weapons to take you down. They work together and often provide a much greater challenge than mindless zombies do. But you might be asking yourself, is this game scary? Many people argue that Resident Evil 4 saw the start of the franchise's departure from horror, focusing more on action than scares, and I can definitely see their point when I compare it to the earlier installments, despite not having actually played any of them. However, this change matters little to me personally, seeing as this was my first game in the series, and thus I came in without any opinion of what a Resident Evil game should be. I just think that it's a great game with a good mix of new and old elements. Before we go any further with this review, I should probably mention how and why I came into possession of this game, considering I probably first played it around 2006, meaning when I was 10 years old, and the box clearly states 18 plus here in Norway, and my parents were very strict with this age restriction stuff. Luckily, I had friends whose parents were more lenient, and he was like, hey, you want to come over and play the new game I've gotten? And I was like, sure. So we show up at his house, I close the curtains, we sit down in front of this big bulky television on the edge of his bed. We played so many good games there, and we booted up. And to begin with, we're actually not struggling too hard, and we're not too scared, because you have a gun in Resident Evil 4. I mean, you can fight back, you're not unarmed like Amnesia or Outlast. Everything's going okay, until we reach the village. After a few minutes of walking around the woods and getting accustomed to the controls, we came to the local village and soon found ourselves overwhelmed with enemies. We began panicking when we realized we had bit over more than we could chew and took refuge in a house, only to realize there was no sanctuary to be had.
No dejes que se escape. Vayan por detrás.
Why are these people?
Bloqueale el paso.
What are they planning? Chainsaw.
Shit. Te voy a matar.
Son of a...
We totally missed the fact that there was a shotgun to be obtained in there and just fought with our handgun until we got a visit from a certain someone. And that man was Mr. Potato Sack Head. Screams had escaped our lips by the time the "You are dead" screen showed up. Me and my friend turned off the game in an instant and vowed not to play it again. I mean, this stuff was graphic. They even censored the chainsaw decapitation in Resident Evil 5, not daring to go as far as they had gone in this game. We eventually gave in though and tried to complete the level again, and I have this vague memory of how we overcame the Chainsaw Man, who is referred to in-game as Dr. Salvador, and this method was ingenious. Whenever he appeared on screen with his chainsaw going all rum rum rum, the person not currently playing would mock him and shout obscenities like, "Oh, why are you wearing a potato sack on your head? Are you that ugly?" and similar lines. And laughing at the scary enemy just gave us the courage we needed to succeed. Due to how much I enjoyed playing it with him, I later bought my own copy of Resident Evil 4, and it saw much use on my old fat PlayStation 2. At a certain point in the game, you come across the damsel in distress, Ashley Graham. She has an attitude at first, but warms up to Leon once she realizes how bangable he is. You will get separated from Ashley at various times during the journey, and you must travel forth to save her yet again. Part of me prefers the sections where she has been kidnapped, simply because you don't have to take care of her at those times. You see, Ashley has a health bar, just like Leon, and she can take damage, just like Leon, and she can die, just like Leon. There seems to be some conflicting messages going around in the cult, as some enemies wish to just straight up kill Ashley, while others try to capture her. If Ganado picks up Ashley and carries her off into the nearest door, it's game over for you, buddy. That is, unless you acquire one of the game's special outfits that lets Leon play as a mobster and Ashley gets her own suit of armor. She can't take damage in this gear and enemies will have a harder time taking her away. Los burritos, my back, And as if protecting her wasn't bad enough, you'll be forced to play as her later in the game. That's right, no guns or knives here, just your wits as a 17-year-old girl, and of course the occasional panty shots. I mean, this is a Japanese game after all. Speaking of panties, they even programmed in an anti-peeping mechanic, I kid you not. If you're standing at the bottom of a ladder, then Ashley will wait to be caught by you as she jumps down, but if you try to look up her skirt from below... I deserve that. I'm a sick, sick man. And don't ask me how I came across this mechanic. So, how is the story in Resident Evil 4? Well, as I said, it initially revolves around saving Ashley from the grip of the local cult and bringing her back home. But seeing as it's a video game, there will of course be many delays and obstacles and challenges in the way. Now, some of these are sort of painfully obvious in a video game style. You're like, yep, that's a video game mechanic, but none of the characters in the story really react to it in the same way. I mean, it's just a minor gripe I had with it though, because, you know, all of that's sort of forgotten when you're trying to face off against crazed villagers, zealous cultists, and savage soldiers, all under the command of one man, Osmond Sadler.
My name is Osmond Sadler, the master of this fine religious community.
What do you want?
To demonstrate to the whole world our astounding power, of course. No longer will the United States think they can police the world forever. So, we kidnap the president's daughter in order to give her our power, and then send her back.
No. Leon, I think they shot something in my neck.
What did you do to her?
Early on in the game, he injects you and your lady friend with a lovely little thing known as Las Plagas, and this threatens to change both of you into the hollow, empty vessels that populate this area. Leon would become Sadler's greatest puppet, and Ashley would be sent back to the United States to spread the virus further, after being ransomed for a huge amount of money, of course. I like the fact that they put our protagonist on a ticking clock like this, because it makes his objective and quest a more difficult experience. Where one might say, well, you have Ashley, just run off into the woods here and avoid the villagers altogether, and other such things that might make sense in the real world, now it's a lot more complicated. You need to learn about the virus and figure out how to remove it from your body, but this is an objective that can't be completed without some outside help. Leon comes across a few supporting characters throughout his journey, and while he is mostly on his own, they help drive the story forward and offer some diversity. Early on, we meet the charming researcher known as Louise Serra.
A little rough, don't you think?
At times, you'll find yourself fighting or working side by side with him, but he's not the only person to aid Leon.
Put your hands where I can see them.
Sorry, but following a lady's lead just isn't my style.
Put them up now.
Bit of advice, try using knives next time. Works better for close encounters.
The woman in red, Ada Wong, returns yet again. You only really see her in cutscenes on your first playthrough, but there are 3 other game modes that feature her as a playable character. After completing the main campaign, you unlock a lot of extras, and among these is the game mode called Separate Ways.
Separate ways.
Yeah, I just said that. And here we are told the story of what Ada was up to, and it features some new weapons and locations. Completing this mode also gives you extra outfits to wear in the main campaign, and it can be finished in about 2 hours, but it contains a lot of scenes that help explain the story. We see why the bell was rung that saved Leon in the village, along with many other of her rescue attempts, and of course you find out what happened to Leon's jacket. Shortly after the first chapter, Leon is stripped of this piece of clothing after being knocked out by the village leader, Vitores Mendez.
Perfect. The big cheese.
What?
And let me just say, Leon fits the jacket a lot better. Assignment Data is another bonus mode, and is a short mission that takes place on a heavily fortified island that you must infiltrate to steal important virus samples. It's a fun little experience for those wanting to just jump in and shoot some fools, although there are no save stations, so dying makes you start over. Thirdly, you can play as her in The Mercenaries. The Mercenaries is a mode that lets you kill near endless waves of enemies in an arcade-style fashion, complete with bonus pickups and a score tracker. You can choose from Leon Scott Kennedy, Ada Wong, Jack Krauser, Hunk, and of course, Albert Wesker. All have their own pros and cons. And by that I mean Leon and Ada suck, while the other three are badass masters of combat. Krauser has a bow that kills most enemies in one blow, plus a mutated arm that destroys anything in its path, including level bosses. Hunk is just a super fun character to play due to his ability to neck break any foes that are still recovering from a headshot. Going on a neck breaking spree sounds very morbid, but it's a surprising amount of fun. And finally, Albert Wesker, the antagonist of Resident Evil 5, has a silenced gun that almost always headshots, and he has martial art moves right out of a Dragon Ball Z episode. You unlock different characters and even a special weapon by getting as many stars on each level as you can. It's a very cool feature to have and offers some extra longevity to the game. All in all, there is a huge amount of content in this game, and the replayability is partly why I've clocked so many days and weeks in this game. Resident Evil 4 constantly urges you to play more. There's just so many goodies all wrapped up in this little package that I'm honestly glad Capcom keeps polishing and re-releasing it, even though I know it's just for the extra income on their end. This is a damn good game that I've played through twice on the channel already, and I'm playing through it in between writing this script, despite not needing any more footage for my video. I may have a slight addiction problem. If I had to point out its flaws, I'd mostly be left with just nitpicking. For example, I don't like how inconsistent the game is about killing or capturing Ashley. I mean, Salazar, this little hobbit over here, was tasked with retrieving Ashley for a ritual, so why does he trap her and Leon in a room with a descending spike roof? Did he just assume that she would survive? So why would you even bother with this trap in the first place? Wouldn't Sadler be pissed off if you just squashed Ashley? His minions also feel conflicted about the topic, and those of them that are unable to pick her up, like the shield Ganados, just try to bash her to death. Another thing that became very clear to me during my recent playthrough was just how absurd this game can be. You'll have villagers pushing giant boulders after you, you'll fight in a lava pit inside Salazar's castle, and Leon getting stabbed in the thigh by Ada's knife is something he just brushes off during the cutscene.
Sorry, Ada.
She kicked you in the groin, dude! She should be the one apologizing! Now go strangle her again! That's better! Don't let her push you around, Leon. Resident Evil 4 is not a flawless game. It's not the best game ever, as that's a silly term considering one's enjoyment of a game is highly subjective, but it's a piece of interactive media that means a lot to me. It's undoubtedly my favorite video game of all time, as I enjoy so many aspects of it and I played through it countless times, all of its modes, and I will continue to do so in the future. I'm even doing it in between making and shooting this video. So my final rating for this game is Leon, help! Out of 10. Now if you'll excuse me, I got some Ganados to take care of. Hasta luego.